Imagine every question you ask, every image you request, every video you conjure up, every bit of data you seek, being returned in such a way that is deemed safe, responsible or acceptable by some faceless safety police. Imagine every bit of information you consume has been transformed into some lukewarm, middle version of the truth, that every opinion you ask for is not really an opinion or a viewpoint, but some inoffensive, apologetic response that doesn't actually tell you anything. This is the benign, annoying version, or worse, is some ideology wrapped in a response so that everything you know becomes some variation of what the manufacturers of said safe AI want you to think and know. Imagine you had modern Disney characters, like those clowns from the Eternals movie, as your ever-present intellectual assistants. It would make you dumb squared. The Uncommunist Manifesto outlined the utopian communist dream as the grand homogenization of man. If only everyone were a series of numbers on a spreadsheet, or automatons with the same opinion, it would be so much easier to have paradise on earth. You could ration out just enough for everyone, and then we'd be all equally miserable proletariats. This is like George Orwell's thought police crossed with Inception, because every question you had would be perfectly captured and monitored, and every response from the AI could incept an ideology in your mind. In fact, when you think about it, that's what information does. It plants seeds in your mind. This is why you need a diverse set of ideas in the minds of men. You want a flourishing rainforest in your mind, not some monocrop field of wheat, with deteriorated soil, that is susceptible to weather and insects, and completely dependent on Monsanto, or OpenAI or Pfizer, for its survival. You want your mind to flourish, and for that you need ideaversity. This was the promise of the Internet. A place where anyone can say anything. The Internet has been a force for good, but it is under attack. Whether that's been the de-anonymization of social profiles like those on Twitter and Facebook, and the creeping KYC across all sorts of online platforms, through to the algorithmic vomit that is spewed forth from the platforms themselves. We tasted that in all its glory from 2020. And it seems to be only getting worse. The push by WEF-like organizations to institute KYC for online identities, and tie it to a CBDC in your iris is one alternative, but it's a bit overt and explicit. After the pushback on medical experimentation of late, such a move may be harder to pull off. An easier move could be to allow Louise to take over, as they will, because they're a superior user experience, and in the meantime create an AI safety council that will institute safety filters on all major large language models, LLMs. Don't believe me? Our G7 overlords are discussing it already. Today, the web is still made up of web pages, and if you're curious enough, you can find the deep, dark corners and crevices of dissidence. You can still surf the web. Mostly. But when everything becomes accessible only through these models, you're not surfing anything anymore. You're simply being given a synthesis of a response that has been run through all the necessary filters and sensors. There will probably be a sprinkle of truth somewhere in there, but it will be wrapped up in so much safety that 99.9% of people won't hear or know of it. The truth will become that which the model says it is. I'm not sure what happens to much of the Internet when discoverability of information fundamentally transforms. I can imagine that, as most applications transition to some form of language interface, it's going to be very hard to find things that the portal you're using doesn't deem safe or approved. One could, of course, make the argument that in the same way you need the tenacity and curiosity to find the dissident crevices on the web, you'll need to learn to prompt and hack your way into better answers on these platforms. And that may be true, but it seems to me that for each time you find something unsafe, the route shall be patched or blocked. You could then argue that this could backfire on them, by diminishing the utility of the tool. And once again, I would probably agree. In a free market, such stupidity would make way for better tools. But of course, the free market is becoming a thing of the past. What we are seeing with these hysterical attempts to push for safety is that they are either knowingly or unknowingly paving the way for squashing possible alternatives. In creating safety committees that regulate these platforms, regulate speech, new models that are not run through such safety or toxicity filters will not be available for consumer usage, or they may be made illegal, or hard to discover. How many people still use Tor? Or DuckDuckGo? And if you think this isn't happening, here's some information on the current toxicity filters that most LLMs already plug into. It's only a matter of time before such filters become like KYC mandates on financial applications. A new compliance appendage, strapped onto language models like tits on a bull. Whatever the counterargument to this homogenization attempt, both actually support my point that we need to build alternatives, and we need to begin that process now. For those who still tend to believe that AGI is around the corner and that LLMs are a significant step in that direction, by all means, you're free to believe what you want, but that doesn't negate the point of this essay. If language is the new screen and all the language we see or hear must be run through approved filters, the information we consume, the way we learn, the very thoughts we have, will all be narrowed into a very small Overton window. I think that's a massive risk for humanity. We've become dumb enough with social media algorithms serving us what the platforms think we should know. And when they wanted to turn on the hysteria, it was easy. Language user interfaces are social media times 100. Imagine what they can do with that, the next time a so-called crisis hits? It won't be pretty. The marketplace of ideas is necessary to a healthy and functional society. That's what I want. Their narrowing of thought won't work long term, because it's anti-life. In the end, it will fail, just like every other attempt to bottle up truth and ignore it. But each attempt comes with unnecessary damage, pain, loss and catastrophe. That's what I am trying to avoid and help ring the bell for.